Okay, I'm ready for work. I ate, so this is what I'm doing. I'm going vegan. I don't know if I could do it. We tried it before, my husband and I, and well, you saw what I ate. I had soup. It was vegetable soup, and I had a Danish with bacon bits on top, real bacon bits. I think there are times when I love certain things. I love the creams and the buttery Danishes, and yeah, it's hard. It's not easy. I don't know what to say about that other than I found it difficult, and coconut milk just wasn't cutting it, the real condensed milk. And I got coconut condensed milk. I found it. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing now. It's kind of a little daunting. I'm doing my video, leave me alone. So, and yes, I take phones away. Isn't that funny? I have to, otherwise nothing gets done. And so, yeah, so I take the phone away, and then trash cans get taken out, and if you're a mom, Here we go, March 27th. Haven't read it. I only read the first part, so here we go. I also saw that I had been self-righteous and smug, thinking I was doing for Bill all that any wife could do. I have come to believe that self-righteousness is one of the worst sins. It is impregnable. No shaft of light can pierce its armor. It keeps its victims apart and aloof from others. Lois Wilson passed it on. The story of Bill Wilson and how the AA message reached the world, 168. Lois Wilson, the original Al-anon member, shares the classic self-concept of someone whose life is harmed by an addict's behavior. Lois was nurse, breadwinner, and decision maker for herself and Bill. She felt pretty good about her efforts and results. Being unable to cure Bill of alcoholism was a blow to her ego. As much as she wanted to be gracious, she resented that other drunks could do for Bill what she could not. Pass It On is a fascinating discussion of the embryonic stages of 12-step recovery. As we read, we imagine facing those challenges of the day ourselves. There is nothing old-fashioned about self-righteousness. It is like a mind-altering drug in its own right. When we feel superior, all-knowing, or persecuted, or as though we're on a crusade, we isolate ourselves with a barrier of uniqueness. Our true motives might fly below our own radar. Denial, as an acronym, has been bandied around the rooms as meaning didn't even know I was lying. Okay, as an acronym, it's a stretch. Please don't get all self-righteous and miss the point. With walls up and armor on, we lack sensitivity to be nuances of our environment. As we cut ourselves off from meaningful stimulation and nurturing. I'm going to read that again. Denial as an acronym has been bandied around the rooms as meaning didn't even know I was lying. So he says it's a stretch. Please don't get all self-righteous and miss the point. With walls up and armor on, we lack sensitivity to the nuances of our environments as we cut ourselves off from meaningful stimulation and nurturing. We want approval and control, and we are left with nothing but the loneliness of our self-justification. Am I currently feeling unappreciated or indignant? What's at the root of my discontent? Well, for me, there's a lot of layers here. I know that as a wife who was quote, in the truth for 20 years, right? And going to all my meetings and making it to all the assemblies and doing my personal study and studying with the kids by myself. I was way better than my husband, right? Because he didn't even love God. That was over. He was not even, and he couldn't tell me any different. I mean, he couldn't tell me anything because he already didn't love God. So you're out, right? I had to, when it says didn't even know I was lying, didn't even know I was lying to myself, right? The denial that comes from not really seeing the things around you for what they really are. Like I said, my dad had been disfellowshipped for 15 years. I saw what he went through with elders in the back room. My brother was molested. I saw what he went through with elders in the back room when he was in adolescence. I saw my husband struggle. I saw people literally close to me tell me that their husbands wanted to beat my husband up because he was no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And he was, an apostate? Sharing something that he didn't agree with, even though, he was mild compared to me once I figured out what it was. It was a big lie that they were telling us, and that I felt I had to sacrifice my family and my family just the way Jesus sacrificed his life. So there's a lot of denial when you finally look at it. And that all-knowing, right, superior attitude, it does really isolate us from the world around us. And what my husband says, that's intentional, right? To isolate us from the world around us is intentional because it works. Fear works. Approval and control. Yeah. And I remember it says, the bottom, it says we want approval and control, and we're left with nothing but the loneliness of our self-justification. And I remember going to assemblies and seeing families leave, right? Leave. I was up at the Long Beach Assembly Hall. I was on the top tier of the parking structure. And I could see all these families just leaving with each other. And all I wanted was my husband with me and my girls. We were sad. We didn't have my husband. We were not a unit. And we loved him and he loved us. And that was a lot of time that was taken away from us for years, 20 years. It is, no shaft of light can pierce its armor. And we, as Jehovah's Witnesses, right? The helmet of salvation. We go through the whole thing of the suit of armor, the shield of righteousness, all of that. I'm not going to go into it, but we're told to have that, structure on us to keep us strong and separated. And now it is so bizarre. I've heard bits and pieces from Wally about what's happening. And I have a friend, and she was explaining to me at breakfast, oh, you can wear pants now. I'm like, what? You can wear pants, and you can, I had heard earlier than that, you can, have a 5 o'clock shadow, and oh my goodness. It's just bizarre. If you were to jump into the 70s with Franz giving talks and the way it looked like, it was, the structure of Jehovah's Witnesses has totally changed. Motives might fly below our radar. Our true motives might fly below our radar. We isolate ourselves with the barrier of uniqueness. And what I wanted was a forever. I wanted to live forever. I wanted to see my father again. And being unique meant that my family would live forever, including my husband. Because despite the fact that he was no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses, I'd have discussions with other friends of mine, and they would say, oh, well, he never really truly knew God, right? So he's kind of off the hook. And so, that would keep him coming, that would allow him to go into the new world. Or I would get, if you stay in, then your husband will come. And because of you, he will have everlasting life. Even though we're told no one can come on our coattails. Children can't come on our coattails into the new world. It was just such a bizarre way of keeping a self-righteous attitude that really did keep me isolated from my family, along with the world around me, and keeping me ignorant to the things that were happening around me, and how the brain works, and how I didn't have to feel that way. I could go and be able to learn things and understand why my husband had his own opinion, and to respect that opinion, and that others were like him that had the same opinion. And that shouldn't keep me away from my husband mentally, or my friends outside of the organization. Yeah, or people outside of the organization. It was a challenge. It was a challenge to realize that I was the one that needed to change. And that is a fascinating discussion of the embryonic stages, or of the 12-step program. So the 12-step program does give you a breakdown of what the encouragement to do things differently. I was trained, I was groomed to want the approval of people around me and control over things that I had no control over. It's strange when you finally step back and you realize, oh, I had been controlled the entire time. I was picked for a reason. I was picked because of the sadnesses that happened in our lives. It was so easy to control us. Alcoholism is high in the Jehovah's Witnesses, the group, as Jehovah's Witnesses. And it's because, as my husband and I talk about it, and he says, well, it's the only thing they can do. And I remember going into friends, I was walking around the house, and their whole house was centered around a bar. It looked like a shrine. They had so much liquor, and this was an elder's home. I was actually with a friend, and we were at her home, and I got to see this family's home, and I was surprised because he was an elder for years. So he was like second generation elder. And they were about my age. So they have kids about my age, my children's age, just probably a little bit older, 2 or 3 years older, which is surprising because these people we were trained to have everlasting life in view, so not to have children, right? So a lot of my friends never had kids. It's a mind-altering drug in its own right, self-righteousness. And it is mind-altering. I feel bad for how I treated my husband over the years because of just feeling like I was unique, that I was picked and he wasn't. And I always felt a burden because of the way we were taught, and how if we had, as a wife, behaved, then our husbands would be one without a word. And it cut off the opportunities that I could have had to have discussions, mild discussions with my husband, and sometimes heated discussions, right? Because that's how you get out feelings and opinions, and not necessarily you don't appreciate them at the time, but as time flows on and you're comfortable with each other and a discussion, then it makes it easier to accept what the other person is saying. And even now, I'm resentments don't go away that easily. They're still under there. They're still, it's like the rocks under the water. They're still there. So we still have work to do. It doesn't go away. It's a massive 20-year period where I wouldn't listen. So it's tough. And, I made mistakes. And that is something that I can honestly say is I made mistakes. And despite the fact that it was honestly made, I really truly believed what I was told. I really truly believed that there was a God that wanted a peaceful, place and was going to grow us into perfection. But I listened to a doctor, and it was really, she was very eye-opening when she said, perfection is creepy. And it is. It's kind of creepy if you think about it. No one should be considered perfect. And even if we grew to perfection, that is kind of creepy. We enjoy idiosyncrasies from certain people. If everybody was the same, we wouldn't have the differences that give us a beautiful rainbow of individuals. I enjoy having differences around the world. I enjoy different people, regardless of their color or their gender identity, right? I enjoy seeing the differences that come with all of that. It's a beautiful array of, it's like a beautiful bouquet of flowers. If every flower was the same, it would not be beautiful. A beautiful bouquet of flowers is beautiful because of the differences. And that's what I appreciate now about the people around me, even the people that I don't care for. Am I unappreciated or indignant? And what's the root of my discontent? I think as a mother, you always feel a little bit underappreciated, right? So, and the root of my discontent? Sometimes it's just not having the flow. And that can be kind of hard. I notice that as my kids get older, they are not easily controlled. They have their own opinions. And I was not raised like that. I was controlled, and the opinions that I had, they went along with the adults around me. So it's changed in our home. They have their own opinions. Sometimes it's a little bit rocky and can be difficult to control. And that is where there's a fine line as a parent. How do you control a situation without being controlling and dominating, and that can be a challenge. So yeah, that's where Al-anon really helps, is learning that I don't have to always have an opinion, that I can stay quiet. And let me tell you, that is difficult for me. So we are, as a family, growing. And we all are grateful to be together after all these years. And I'm very grateful that I have what I have, that it hasn't been taken away, or that I just missed out and listened to something that was quite evil and would have changed the whole dynamics, all the dynamics of what a family is in the current years that we're living in. So yeah, the whole world and the structure of the world has changed. It's one of the reasons why I want to go vegan. And it's going to be a challenge, and you're going to hear me probably bellyache and maybe even mess up a few times. But I really would, that whole point of being one of Jehovah's Witnesses was that I wouldn't hurt anyone. And that's almost impossible. We always hurt someone in our human life process, right? But we don't have to. We can make some choices differently, especially when it comes to animals and what we eat. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I wanted to share that with you. Interesting. It's going to be, I don't know. Let's see. It's going to be fascinating to see what I can cook up that will taste good. There's I don't remember what his name is, but it's the Wicked Vegan. I'm wicked now. Might as well be wicked vegan. Anyway, I hope this helps you on your healing journey. Follow your bliss and be good humans.